For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage.
Hello and welcome to the video review of the board game Northwest Passage Adventure, published by Heinekes Games. The Northwest Passage is a sea route through the Arctic Ocean connecting the coasts of North America. Many explorers tried to find the way until Roald Amundsen succeeded on 1906. On the game, we play the role of one of them to lead this epic adventure.
Westward from the Davis Strait.
Advanced tokens for each player. Historical character cards. Treasure cards. Board tiles. Rulebook on 4 languages. The board depends on the number of people. For 2 players, we only use the big board tiles without mark, getting a 4 white board. For 3 players, we add on each side the small ones, marked with a 3 this way, creating a 6 white board. For 4 players, we use all the tokens placed like this, obtaining an 8 white board. Before the game starts, we shuffle each kind of board tiles and deploy 4 rows at random. During the game, we unfold new rows as long as we advance, having always 4 rows ahead of the first boat. This symbolizes the ship's captain view. When the board is completely deployed, with 24 rows, the player who first crosses the last one will be the winner. There are 4 types of terrains we can cross over: water, land, snow, and iceberg. Each one of them have a different cost. Water 1 action point, land 2, snow 3, and iceberg 4. We have 4 action points per turn we can use, among other things, to move through the board. Each player starts with 28 advanced tokens, with specific geometries and quantities that we use to move through the board. It's not mandatory to use the whole 4 points, but we'll use the one we don't use. For example, to pass over 4 waters, we can use this advanced token. Afterwards, we place the boat on the last hexagon of the advanced token used. If we choose to trace the route that crosses 1 land with cost 2 and 2 waters cost 1 each, making 4 action points, we use an advanced token that fits on the board and place the boat. If we want, we can also spend several advanced tokens per turn. We will put the first and then the other, moving the ship each time. After playing an advanced token, if there are less than 4 board rows ahead the boat, we add new tiles at random just to have 4 rows again. Later on, we continue with our turn if we still have actions to do. We can also move through our own route if we need. To do that, we don't use advanced tokens. We simply move our ship across it. Each hexagon costs 1 action point, because we discovered this trace before and now it's water. This is useful to search new ways if the board gets off. Now we take the role of the yellow player. The turn starts and we have this panorama. We can move through the board tracing a new route, or we can raid blue player's route. For that purpose, we use the special raid advanced token. This tile is 1 hexagon size with a torch. Playing it always costs 2 action points. We place it on an enemy's route hexagon adjacent to our boat. At this time, we are raiding the blue player. From now on, moving through this route only costs 1 action point per hexagon, because the enemy discovered the path and left water behind. At any time, we can leave the enemy's route without an additional cost, but in this case, we use the remaining action points to follow the enemy. The yellow player is currently raiding blue player's route and just behind his ship. If he ends the turn on this situation, throwing away the possible remaining action points, he can trigger the special ability Fresh Waters to add 2 extra action points. We can use these points to leave blue player's route and search for other possibilities, or to overtake the enemy, like this case. One for being blue route and another for being water. The ships remain in this position. The turn begins and we are the blue player. After being overtaken by the yellow player, we lost the course. We have two options: get out of yellow player's route, this way or this other, or take revenge on the enemy. In such case, we raid on the same hexagon our ship stands to enter yellow's route. Now, we can overtake the enemy in two different ways. The first, using the remaining 2 action points of our turn, and the second, ending our turn, losing the remaining points in order to get fresh water 2 extra action points, and overtake. The outcome is the same.
Driving hard across the plain.
Another use for our 4 action points is dropping an iceberg just behind our ship on our route, spending 3 action points. We use 1 point to move through water, and with the remaining 3 we place an iceberg tile. This way we slow down the blue player. If he decides to chase us, he must sail over the iceberg and raid us again.
And make a northwest passage to the sea.
In case of emergency, we can use 4 action points to take back to our pool one of our advanced tokens over the board with nothing on it.
I think upon Mackenzie, David Thompson, and
During the game, we find some terrains with treasure chests. Each time our route crosses over one of them, we draw a treasure card. If we pass through several terrains with chests, we draw that amount of cards, 2 in this example. This is how the treasure cards look. Depending on the number of players, we take different cards. For 2 players, we only use the ones marked with 2+. With 3 players, we also play with the 3+ cards. And for a 4-player game, we use all cards. The newspaper front page shows the name of the card, and on the label is described the effect with easy symbols. This card allows placing an iceberg on a board hexagon with nothing on top. Treasure cards are used on our turn before or after an action. Each turn we only can use 1 and end it with a maximum of 3 in hand. We recommend to start the game drawing 3.
seek a northwest passage at the...
This is how the character cards look. At the beginning of the game, we take 2 at random and choose 1. This is the historical character that leads our adventure. Each one has a permanent ability that we use throughout the game. For example, John Rae allows passing through snow as it were land, that is, with cost 2.
Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a northwest passage to the sea.